This is I Pierce the Toast. I'm Sean.
And I'm AJ. Let's make some toast.
Welcome back to I Pierce the Toast. AJ, what's going on this week?
Well, you keep doing this. We've been going 6 episodes now. That's a big number for us. And you still keep calling it I Pierce the Toast. I really think we should go with IPTT.
So the only issue I have with that is, do you remember Beavis and Butthead?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember when he would make himself the Great Cornholio?
Yes, he had TP for his bunghole.
See, that right there. IPTT. I know it's not TP, but it has that same sound to it, and I feel like my hood needs to come over my head, and I need to be like, I need IPTT for my bunghole. Like, no, that's not.
Would you like to see my bunghole?
Can't believe we just made a Beavis and Butthead reference. I am so sorry to every film buff out there for this transgression. Please forgive me.
Beavis and Butthead Do America was amazing, and it just came back into light. They just started filming again.
I heard it's. I can't believe we're trying to bring that piece of garbage back.
I love
but
that
it's
show.
fine. It's fine. It's Beavis and Butthead was a big part of my childhood. But moving on, AJ, we're starting a new segment on the show, aren't we?
Yeah, actually, I know that we've kind of been neglecting you guys. You know, there's always things going on in the news, and there's a lot of big things that have happened recently. Richard Belzer, who was Munch on SVU, just died in the past week, and I kind of feel if we're doing movies and things like that, we owe it to you guys to at least talk about some entertainment news.
Obviously, Richard Belzer's passing is an absolute tragedy, but how do you think Richard felt about the fact that he spent the majority of his successful television career as a dude named Munch?
I think he probably thought that was fucking hilarious. Do you know what his last words were?
No.
The last words that he had was, "Fuck you, motherfucker." The last words that are documented for him saying before he died was, "Fuck you, motherfucker."
Oh my God. We should all be so lucky to be able to go out saying, "Fuck you, motherfucker."
Yeah, I think we should do him. It's not do him, but you know what I mean. We should talk about him in one of our Schmecken episodes, because he was actually a very interesting guy. He was the cousin of Henry Winkler.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, Henry Winkler posted something on Twitter, saying goodbye to his cousin. I was like, I'm sorry, what? But I mean, now, like in retrospect and seeing them together, it's like, yeah, okay, you can kind of see that there's a familial resemblance there, totally.
And I completely think that he had some great roles, mostly in the television, and we don't really talk about, what is it? What's the screen? It's not the silver screen that they call TV. What is it?
The blue screen.
The small screen.
The small screen?
I don't know. It's like whatever they call TV. He had some great roles in movies and in TV. Species 2, that was a good one.
No, it wasn't. Objectively, no.
But yeah, we'll talk about him in a future episode. But I know that you had something too that you brought up that I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, so I learned about this recently. For those who may remember, Warren Beatty played in a very iconic comic book character named Dick Tracy. Kind of this 1950s detective who was clad in yellow, which, odd color for whatever, honestly, unless you're a Paddington Bear or something. But I was always curious, why did we never get a sequel from this film? And apparently, the studios really wanted to move forward with some sequels, but they didn't want to include Warren Beatty. And Warren Beatty, in the most absolute petty move possible, apparently found a loophole in some contract that as long as he revives the role for a certain set amount of time or in a certain way, it's considered a sequel, and the studios can't move forward with it. So every time this deadline comes up, Warren Beatty finds some way to quote unquote reprise the role. And it's usually just on a very limited basis and nothing, official, but just enough that it satisfies that loophole so they can never do the sequel without him.
I think that is so petty. That is P to the E to the TTY, and I absolutely love that.
What? Okay, hold on. What did you just do?
Don't worry about it.
here's some other news. Obviously, the Oscars are going to be coming up soon.
Yes,
we got the Oscars in 2 weeks. So, we record this on Sunday, and we're going to release on Wednesday. And that's going to be our normal pattern. We're just going to try to keep with that. So that means if Sean or AJ have a lazy day, we're just not releasing shit.
Yeah.
So apologies ahead of time.
Yeah, and I do want to apologize for the last episode, by the way. We usually give you a slice of toast. That was a whole fucking loaf of toast.
That was a goddamn loaf of bread.
Yeah, it was. I think going forward, if we do a long episode like that, we will do a part 1 and a part 2. You guys will probably get both episodes that same week, but at least gives us time to record half the episode, pause, take a Diet Coke break, because that's what we do, and then get back into it. That way you guys will still get 2 episodes, but you'll be able to break them up into some bite-sized pieces.
So no more slapping our audience with an entire fucking baguette.
Yeah. I see. It's Wonder Bread, though. It's okay.
It's Wonder Bread?
Yeah. Because it's a wonder why they made that episode so long. Hey-o!
So the Oscars coming up.
Yeah.
You know what that also means is coming up?
The whale?
The Razzies.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Ooh.
the Razzies.
I love
And I just saw that some of the nominations that have been released, Tom Hanks has been nominated for 2 Razzies.
For what?
Let's see here. He's nominated for Pinocchio and for his role in Elvis, which...
Really?
I had no... Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't go see Elvis. I wanted to take my mom because she's a huge Elvis fan. And unfortunately, at the time that it came out... I think it actually came out right around your birthday or something. Like, so
it was somewhere around that time.
Yeah, so we just couldn't, we really never got around to it. But I didn't hear much about it, so I guess maybe that could be an indication that it wasn't super critically acclaimed. But I didn't hear anything awful about it. But
I liked it.
I don't know how they got to giving Tom Hanks a Razzie nomination, but that's. I don't know. That feels like taking pop shots at Brendan Fraser. Like, what is wrong with you? You can't be doing that stuff.
I see. The thing is, though, is whenever I did see the movie, that was one of the things I did say was that every scene with him in it was a little fucking weird. I'm not gonna lie.
So AJ, this week, as we get into the film that we're going to cover, Brick, I have a very important question for you. Who you been eating lunch with?
I usually eat lunch in my car by myself.
One of the most unique parts about this film that we're going to talk about today is the language. They really took the setting that they placed the film in and ran with it with the backdrop of the film noir. So before we get into this film, Brick, is from 2005, a film written and directed by Rian Johnson. And the backdrop of the film is... we're in a high school, but it's a film noir whodunit.
Ooh, interesting.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who we're going to get into all the actors and what roles they played, but he's playing a student named Brendan, and Brendan is trying to find out who done it in terms of who killed his ex-girlfriend, Emily. But within the lens of the high school, it's still very much a film noir. He is very much the loner detective, the hard-boiled detective that's trying to discover who done it and figure out who the players are and embed himself into the seedy underworld of high school drug, muling or whatever have you. It's an interesting idea, and I gotta say, I think it worked. I think it worked brilliantly. But as Joseph Gordon-Levitt noted, coming into this film, one of the hardest parts of it was understanding and getting in tune with the language of the film, because it is very much a film noir, but crafted around the setting of the high school. So what I'd like to do this week, before we get into everything else,
Okay.
I want to tell you some of the phrases from the film, completely out of the context, and see if you can tell me what you think they mean.
Okay.
All right, you ready for this? All right, game show time.
Ooh, Jeopardy.
Status quo.
Is everything okay? Is
Yes.
everything cool?
Yeah. So somebody says, hey, how are you doing? You say status quo. You're basically just saying everything's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As I alluded to earlier, where you been eating, or who you been eating lunch with?
Are you talking with other people behind my back?
Ooh, I like where you're thinking here. But actually, within the context of a high school, who you sit with at lunch, kind of like from Mean Girls, you know, oh, you can't sit with us when they're talking about lunch. Who you're sitting with at lunch is indicative of your social grouping, right? That's you sit with whatever current social group you're in. And so as our main character in this film is trying to discover the whodunit, he needs to know what social groups has she been kind of hanging out in. And so instead of saying like, you know, who's she been hanging out with or what social groups is she in? She's been hanging out with the jocks or the druggies or the whatever. No, he doesn't go that. He just says, who's she been eating lunch with?
See, I like that.
Yeah. It's like film noir. You know?
I wish my school was that cool.
Right? Like Bogey just sitting there like, who's she been eating lunch with? You know, kind of, you know, he doesn't use an accent, but he does that. Keep your specs on.
Keep your nose clean.
I love it. So keep your specs on is keep an eye on that guy. Look out for him. Like, you know, maybe tail him, you know, like you're telling your partner, like, I want you to tail that guy and find out what he's been doing. So he's saying, keep your specs on him.
Like, keep your eyes peeled. I like it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a fun way of keep your eyes peeled. I need words.
Talk to me.
Yeah. I want to have a conversation. Yeah. Put that body to bed.
Just drop that.
Yeah. Forget whatever idea you're thinking of because it ain't happening. This one was fun because obviously the character Brendan has his own, you know, kind of unique way of talking. But then there's this other character he interacts with who we'll get to later who's kind of a druggie, but he definitely talks like one of our previous film's main characters from Cool World, constantly with the 1940s lingo.
Dig it.
Yeah, and you're going to love this. Here's one. Heal it now, dig.
Heal it now. Just stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just stop what you're doing. You understand me?
Hey, I'm getting this.
Yeah, look at that. You're ready. You are ready to take on.
I'm going to high school.
She told me to shake you if you came by.
She told me to talk to you if you came by.
Oh, you're so close. She told me to get rid of you, shake you. You know, like shaking a tail. Yeah, This is an easy one. Break some deserving teeth.
These people have this coming for them, and I'm going to go give it to them.
Yeah, punish the wrongdoers. Exactly, yeah. This is a fun one. Tip the bulls.
Basically, you're going to shake some people down?
No, this is a fun one. So I think you could get this. Do you remember Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
What did they call the guards?
I can't remember.
The bulls, right? It's kind of an old 40s, 50s way of referring to the guards in a prison, which kind of became just a general term for those in authority. So if you're saying you're going to tip the bulls...
You're going to go let the teachers know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, yes. You're going to go tell on them to the teachers. This one's a fun one. Tell me if they catch.
Tell me if these people do what I think they're going to do.
You are very close. That's actually a really good... it's tell me if any of these things are familiar to you.
Oh, okay.
So there's this really great scene where he says, Emily told me 4 words I didn't understand. Tell me if they catch. And he's basically saying, tell me if you know any of these words so that that can start me off on my investigation.
So in this movie, does everyone talk like this?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They're all film noiring it up, except one character named Brad Bramish. We're going to get to him. He's just an absolute joke of a character, and I love it. I love what they did with this character.
Can we just talk like this? I like this.
Isn't this great? Ooh, this is a good one. And we're definitely going to start using this one. I got knives in my eyes.
What? My brain is hurting? Or I got a headache?
No, close. I'm tired.
Oh.
I got knives in my eyes. I'm tired or I'm sick or I'm just not feeling great. I got knives in my eyes. I'm going to go lay down.
That's how I'm going to feel with our new schedule of posting.
Right, yeah. I'm going to be calling you up on Tuesday like, I can't finish the editing. I got knives in my eyes. This is a fun one. So he's sitting down at a meeting and the muscle is in the room, and we're gonna get to all these archetypes because they're such great film noir archetypes, and we're gonna get to the fact that I had to make up film noir archetypes because there really is only 2 main ones, but so I made up some others, and this guy in the room, who I'm gonna call the muscle, he's in the room, and Brendan looks at this guy named the Pin, and he says, "The ape walks or I clam."
The muscle has to leave the room or I'm not saying anything?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you're spot on. See, you are ready to be in the seedy underground of high school drugs.
I'm gonna keep my specs on. Yeah.
Just don't get knives in your eyes. The last one. I just got a squawk.
Someone just told me what I wanted to hear.
You're close.
So someone just is basically like telling the truth about everything.
Kinda.
Like
So
a canary singing.
yeah, there you go. Now you're on the right track. A canary singing, it's ratting someone out.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling you, all I got to do is squawk, I'm basically saying, and this is that guy that's talking way more like the 40s than everybody else. Heal it now, dig. It's so funny too, because it's like all the characters are over the top, but they're all still very cool.
Did this movie even do well, like at all?
It did. It wasn't a blockbuster hit, but this wasn't a studio film. This is an independent film, and I'm really excited to talk about this. This is a film by Rian Johnson, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with him. I think everyone that has seen Star Wars is familiar. Because The Last Jedi was a piece of shit.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I did not... Is this a big thing, like in the Star Wars community?
Yeah, it's pretty big. The first one set it up. Force Awakens was leading into something big. The Last Jedi just fell flat on its ass. A lot of people like it. Wow. More people hate it.
I did not know that. But I will say, I feel like Rian Johnson has hit his redemption arc, okay, if you will, his redemption arc. Because he also is the director that brought us Knives Out and the sequel, Knives Out, Glass Onion. And he's not just the director, he's also the writer, as well as the writer and director for this film. He was also the writer and director for Looper,
which is so good.
Oh yeah, it's great movies. He's a terrific writer and director. Maybe that was the problem. He didn't write Star Wars.
He didn't write Star Wars, but I'm pretty sure he wrote the movie, if I remember correctly.
Like he wrote the script.
Yeah, probably. I think he wrote the script. Yeah, he wrote and directed The Last Jedi. That's exactly.
Honestly, I think his bread and butter is detective films, because even Looper is it's not a detective film, but it definitely has detective film elements. Well, Brick is a detective film. Knives Out, both those films are detective films. His latest work, Poker Face.
Isn't that a TV show?
Yeah. It's a TV show. I think that's detective-esque. I haven't watched it yet, but I've been hearing amazing things, and people have been telling me I need to watch this. My understanding is it's also detective-oriented.
Yeah, with Natasha Lyonne, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Natasha Lyonne. That's his bread and butter. That's where he thrives. And I think, maybe when he departs from it, he might have some issues. And it may have just been he didn't have a lot to work with on episode 8. Who knows? But
I'm just gonna bite my tongue on that one. I don't want to ostracize any of our Star Wars fans, but that movie was garbage. But we can move on from.
We can move on. So Rian Johnson creates this script while he's in college. Right out of college, he hits the ground running. He wants to make this film. This is a passion project for Rian.
Okay.
This is a really. I think he really believed in this film, and understandably so. It's an incredible piece of art, in my opinion. This is an absolutely phenomenal film. It's by far one of my favorites from the early 2000s because it's just so unique. We see so many remakes and reboots and reimagines. This is, let's take film noir and let's throw it in a high school. Let's see what happens. Let's change the perspective. And that is so creative. So he wanted this thing made. And he spent 6 years trying to make this, but the studios were not biting.
Do you think it has something to do with the fact that people did for a while feel that noir was played out? I mean, when you had things like Sin City and everything, well, I'm assuming that, this was right around the time that Sin City came out, wasn't it?
It could be that, and I think that this is definitely in the Sin City era, but I think it was more because of who was bringing it to them. Nobody knew who the hell Rian Johnson was. Okay. This is some unknown kid straight out of college. If you're a studio, to hand some kid like this, $500,000, $1 million, however much it's going to cost to create this film, that's a big risk. You don't know how well it's going to do. You don't know whether or not you're going to get a return on that investment, and it's hard. I get it. From a financial input perspective, you're going to have some doubts. So what he does instead is, and I don't know why it took him 6 years, but eventually his family was like, you know what? We're going to help with this. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is, but at the same time, it's like, whose family just has $500 million to throw in a film project?
I wonder if Grandma came out of nowhere and was like, I got you, Ryan. Let me just go into my purse and get my $3 million, and we'll make your movie for Christmas.
Make your movie for Christmas. So we have basically 10 producers on this.
Jesus Christ,
There's a lot of producers, but it's like, okay, 10 producers, co-producers, executive, and associate producers. So overall, 10 of them. The main one that I kind of think of is his grandfather, because again, this is privately funded. He did this on his own, and I think it worked out great for him, because not only did he make a phenomenal film, it appeared at Sundance. Like I said, this is independent, so he got to hit that independent film circuit, and it was definitely critically acclaimed. They received several awards at some of these different film festivals.
Did it play at Cannes?
Did you say Cannes?
Cannes.
Are you saying Cannes? It's not James Caan, is it?
It's fucking French.
I thought it was the Cannes Film Festival.
I'm pretty sure it's Cannes.
Cannes?
Pause. Hold on.
Don't you fucking pause. We're putting this in.
Hold on a second. I'm pretty sure.
I'll include every last goddamn bit of this.
Because it's French.
Don't you fucking get mad at me when the editing comes out. Every last goddamn piece of this conversation is in the fucking final cut.
Oh, it's trying to have me.
Are you
Shut
pulling
the
it up
fuck
on Google?
City in the south of France will be looking at how to say more names and vocabulary, including from French, that many get wrong. So make sure to stay tuned.
Can.
Not
Shut the
Holy shit.
fucking door.
This is a great moment for me, because I'm never right on when it comes to pronunciation. It's always AJ going, "What the fuck did you just say?"
I do that a lot. That's why I was like, it was. Oh shit.
This is a big moment for me.
How does it feel?
I want to bask. I do. I feel like basking.
Like,
can we?
Like, what do you mean basking? Like a turtle?
Yeah, like I'm out in the sun and I'm just on the beach. I'm just basking in it.
You do need sun, though. You are very
I am
white.
a white son of a bitch. You are not wrong.
So let the record show that it is Cannes, not Cannes.
It is the Cannes Film Festival, but I don't know if it played Cannes, but definitely played Sundance. But it did great. It was definitely critically acclaimed, and this bet that Rian Johnson and his family made on him, it worked out. And, not to drive the nepotism point home, but he also include the soundtrack. And the soundtrack is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, the score is phenomenal. It's actually done by his cousin, Nathan.
This is exactly what happened. Grandma pulled the money out of her fucking purse, and everyone was involved.
She said, "Well, now you better let your cousin Nathan play with you.
And you gotta let your grandpa be a producer."
I could not find a resource that laid out all the possible film noir archetypes. All I really found was, especially in something like this, because this is kind of referred to as hard-boiled, like it's a literary genre of noir, hard-boiled, and that kind of entails where the main character is this anti-hero, where or I guess it could be she, where the main detective is kind of in this really disillusioned place where they're both disillusioned with the authorities that they may have possibly worked for at one point. They don't really feel connected to anymore because they feel like they're corrupt. And then there's also the crime, which is also just as corrupt, and they're not really working for anybody. So they're almost nihilistic in a sense.
That's such a good word.
That's a great word. That's kind of what we're looking at here. Is we get an anti-hero, and then we get a femme fatale, and then any resource I looked up, that's really where it ended. They didn't really go further into what the other possible quote-unquote archetypes could be for a film noir. So I've made them up.
Okay.
So we're just going to...
As we do around here.
As we do. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through our characters, and we're going to say who the actor was, the role they played, and then what their archetype is. And as we go through the story, I'm going to do my best. We're going to see how this plays out. I'm going to do my best to say the character and archetype name anytime we make reference to that, except for Brendan. Brendan, I think, right off the bat, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Obviously, he has some incredible credits to his name. Snowden, Don John, Looper, Third Rock from the Sun, a very popular TV show in the 90s, Lincoln, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises. He's done it all. He's a phenomenal performer, very recognizable, and he is our main character. He's our hard-boiled detective. See? See? Within the context of noir, they call Brendan's character the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're not going to refer to him that as from now on.
Okay.
But
What do we
that's
call
what
him?
he is. He's Brendan. We're gonna be talking about Brendan a lot because one of the things that we'll note is Brendan appears in every scene in the film. There is
Really?
there's not a single scene that doesn't include Brendan. And it's a very purposeful choice. Everything in this film is very purposeful. It's very intentional.
I mean, it kind of makes sense though. When you go back to detective dramas like Sam, was it Sneed?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, where it was all his viewpoint. It was him investigating the story, and he was just kind of making it go. He was the narrator. He was the driving point. So you wanted to know what was going on in his head. So that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the ways that Ryan, the director, kind of got around the fact that they didn't do this kind of internal monologue like you might see in some film noirs, where there's that voiceover that's kind of feeding you some information from inside the main character's head. Instead, I think he decided, well, we'll just make sure Brendan is in every scene. That way we know he is our narrator. Even though he's not physically narrating, we can kind of show that in a different way. Again, using this high school as our lens. Next, we have Nora, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of this, Zehetner. Do you know how to say this name? Zehetner? Zetner? Is it Laura Zetner, maybe?
You're good with the pronunciations today, remember?
I'm 0 for 1,000. Okay, that's not a good with pronunciation. Nora Zetner plays Laura and the femme fatale. I'm sure you've heard that term before.
Yeah,
that's a very common phrase. She's our femme fatale, and that does kind of give away this the ending. I'm not going to lie, but she's very much walks into the detective's office and says, "Hello, detective, I've got a job for you." She's not the one giving him the job in this film, but she very much has that energy. So Nora, she was in The Right Stuff, Creative Control. She has had a slew of television appearances, such as like Designated Survivor, Mad Men, and even a couple of episodes of Grey's Anatomy. I think she actually she was one of the people that got killed in a shooting on Grey's Anatomy, like within the context of the show. But yeah, she's been all over the place. She's very recognizable, but she's going to play kind of our femme fatale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I just realized that it's not Sam Snead. That's a fucking golfer. It's Sam Spade, and you let me get away with that.
You're goddamn right I did, because I had no idea what you're talking about, but I didn't want to sound like I didn't.
It's Sam Spade.
I still don't know
The
who you're talking
Maltese
about.
Falcon.
Oh, yeah, I'm actually going to talk about him, but I'm not going to talk about Sam Spade, but I am going to talk about the Maltese Falcon.
Okay.
Because that actually does influence something in this film. So I'm glad you brought up Sam Spade. I didn't know that. My research was very extensive. So then we got Lucas Haas. You're probably going to recognize Lucas Haas from several things. So he's going to play the Pin. Now, the Pin itself, the Pin, right? Isn't that great? We don't really need to give him any further archetypal context. I don't know if that's a word, but he's the mob boss. Okay. We don't, and again, this is high school. So by mob boss, I mean, he's a 26-year-old guy that sells drugs.
Okay.
So he's been in films like Inception, Mars Attacks, The Revenant. He was in, and I'm only bringing this up because I literally have this on my list to do, Solar Babies in the 1980s. Okay. Yeah. We're doing that. But he's been acting since 1983 and has 97 credits.
Jeez.
Yeah, he man likes to work.
So with a name like the Pin, what kind of a character is that though? Like
the Pin, he's a mob boss. He's a very think The Godfather.
So like suit, tie, all that good stuff?
Oh yeah. In this case, we're actually going to talk about his outfit too, because it has its own fun facts attached to it.
Okay.
Because his outfit is essentially just a cape and a cane. Oh yeah. Very, like I said, we really went over the top with a lot of the details.
Why they choose that?
So that's actually a reference to a TV show called Dark Shadows.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's like from the 1970s. I never really heard.
Shadows.
You know about this?
Yeah, there's a remake of it. Johnny Depp's in it.
Well, yeah. So okay, yeah, the original television show that was based off of.
Yeah,
right?
The TV show is even weirder.
Yeah. So apparently, the Pin's outfit in that, the cape, the kind of the over the top, always wearing black, very pale skin, combined with this strange outfit, was influenced by the characters from Dark Shadows, because apparently this whole show is they described it as a gothic soap opera, which I love that description.
Yeah, so it's basically this guy comes back from the dead. I forget the character's name, but he comes back from not the dead, but he's a vampire, and his whole family now lives there, and he's just taking over the business that his old family started. So there's like witches, werewolves, all this kind of shit, and it's just a really dark soap opera, but the way he plays it is very over the top.
So have you actually watched the television show?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I watched the television show after I watched the movie because I was like, I gotta know what the hell is going on. I gotta say, I like the TV show a little bit better because it's
no kidding.
It's fucking hilarious.
Adding that to my list. So next we have Noah Fleiss, who plays Tugger or Tug, and he's someone I alluded to earlier, the Muscle.
Ooh, the Muscle.
The Muscle, right? Noah doesn't have a whole lot of credits. He's mostly known for this film, Joe the King, Until Dawn, and a movie called Josh and Sam. But he does a great job in this film. I really like the direction he took it with it. He played tough high school guy that is the muscle to the pin very well. And we're definitely going to get to talk about him a lot because he's a big part of the story. Next we have Matt O'Leary, the Brain.
Ooh.
And his archetype would be the brains.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what he is.
Okay. Is that what you're giving him? Okay.
Yeah, so very much a Q from Bond type character, right? I know that's not really film noir, but whenever Brendan has questions, he's going to go to the Brain, and he calls him that. Calls him Brain, right? Whenever he has questions or he needs backup, that's Brain. Brain's is kind of as his girl Friday. I know that's a weird way to put it, but that's, this is his one trusted associate in the within the course of the film. Next we have Emile de Raven, who plays Emily Kosich, who is the murder victim. Literally, we're going to open this freaking film with her death, which is just, we're just going to hit the ground running.
Okay.
I'm calling her the damsel because we already have the femme fatale. Can't really have two femme fatales. And she's not murdering anybody. She's not doing any wrongdoing. She's a catalyst to get our story started. The reason why we're doing any of this. She's the whole point of the film. So I'm just going to call her the damsel because we really don't have another. Again, there's no archetype for this, right? So Emile has been in films like Lost. Do you remember Claire Littleton? Do you remember that character from Lost?
No,
I didn't really remember it either. But
Lost was not my jam.
Apparently, she was in a lot of episodes. But yeah, she's definitely had some good credits. She was in Remember Me. She was also in The Hills Have Eyes.
Okay.
So yeah, she's done some stuff. And then we have Noah Sagan. It's either Segan or Sagan. I hope I'm saying that right. And he plays Dode. And Dode. Oh, it's such a great name for him. And I've called his archetype the Snitch. Because that's what he is. Just kind of this. He's a druggie. And he's kind of just this like seedy character. And he's just always kind of just, whatever he's got to do to keep himself alive, right? He's a snitch, right? So he's actually in Knives Out, the original. Blood Relatives. He was in Star Wars Episode 8, Looper. And of course, he's in Poker Face. I don't know. Apparently Noah is just really great friends with Ryan, or they must work really well together, because if it's a Ryan project, Noah is probably in there somewhere.
He's in it.
And then finally, we've got Megan Good, who plays...
I love Megan Good.
Oh, you know Megan Good?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Megan Good was like in Cousin Skeeter. She was in Roll Bounce, Stomp the Yard.
Oh, was she? I have her down for Think Like a Man, The Unborn, Debs, and the TV show Harlem.
She was also in Shazam.
Was she?
Yes.
Megan Good. Are we talking about the same Megan Good?
I'm assuming you're talking. She's very pretty black actress.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, she was in the newest Shazam.
Really?
Yeah, she was the So, spoiler alert for everyone that hasn't seen Shazam. She is the grown-up version of his little sister.
Oh, wow, that was her?
Yeah.
Holy crap! I did research on this.
So I grew up watching Megan Good though, so I was like, okay, yeah, I love Megan Good.
Well, you're gonna love this. She plays Kara, okay, and every interaction that she's gonna have with Brendan, every time he comes in, it's so film noir, and I love it. Every time he sees her, she's always at the theater, backstage, or wherever have you. And every time he sees her, she goes, "Hey, Brendan, come to see the show." It's all she ever That's how so
cool.
It's so cool. It's how every interaction starts. "Hey, Brendan, come to see the show." So I'm calling her the drama queen. I originally had her as the bad actress because she's also going to kind of have a somewhat of a villainous arc. But I thought drama queen made sense because in every interaction with Brendan, she's always acting. She's always lying. And that veil doesn't drop until the very last interaction with her. And it's interesting, too, because she finally drops the veil. And then in that same scene, Brendan throws her out of the dressing room undressed as though he's exposing her to the world. It's a lot of layers there. Like almost like a glass onion.
Actually, there's no layers if she doesn't have any clothes on.
I see what you did there. I'm proud of you.
Ooh, because onions have layers.
So getting into the meat and potatoes of the film.
Ooh, meat and potatoes.
Like I said, this is a film noir. And the reason Ryan told Tim Ryan, an interviewer, that he wanted to do this in a school was he wanted, quote, a different set of visual cues. And I like that. He said what he wanted to do was create a world instead of imitating one. And I think he really hit the goal there. Yeah, I see that confused look on your face.
What do you mean? Because that sounds very pretentious to me.
It sounds pretentious on surface. What he's trying to say is instead of just imitating the world we already live in and calling it noir, right? Like saying Mulholland Drive. Okay, we're just going to imitate the way it was in the 1940s and then tell a story within that context. Instead, what he was saying is, I wanted to create a world that didn't exist. There is no high school where there's some guy running around like he's a film noir anti-hero. That's not a thing.
You say that. But I'm pretty sure somebody out there is doing that.
I'm sure there's probably somebody who thinks they are a 1940s bogey type character, but no, that's not actually happening. So that's what he wanted. He wanted to create a world that didn't already exist. So a high school where all the characters are running around like they're in a classic detective novel. No, that's not a thing. So he wanted to create that, and as opposed to just imitating, what's been done in the past. He was trying not to be completely derivative. And even though noir is somewhat derivative, obviously it's derived from noir, and he's definitely took a lot of influences here. He wanted this to be a unique experience, and it absolutely shows, and it comes out great. They shot this entire thing in 20 days.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah, I don't even know what a filming schedule looks like, but I have to imagine trying to get this thing done in 20 days had to be a nightmare.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you think about this, usually they get a couple scenes in a day done, and they have months of preparation, months of filming, so to shoot the entire movie, you'd have to look at how many scenes were actually in the movie, and you said that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in every scene, right?
Yes.
His fucking filming schedule would have been ridiculous.
I think one of the reasons why they had to keep it so short is Rian Johnson actually filmed this at his high school.
Really?
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine getting to go back to your high school to film a movie?
That would suck.
Why?
I'm not going to say exactly where my high school is. Got to keep something anonymous. But my high school was kind of a piece of shit. So, I mean, it wasn't a total piece of shit, but going back there, I would not want to go back there.
Okay, so you're saying we would not really have gotten it done brick at your high school. Instead, it would be more, I don't know, Michelle Pfeiffer is going to come and straighten everything out for you?
No, I'm thinking more, let's see. You ever seen Lean on Me?
Oh, okay. So Morgan Freeman is going to come in and he's going to clean the school up.
Yeah. Moving on.
There's a lot of visualization influences in this film, and I think you're going to like this. So Ryan was actually influenced by Cowboy Bebop from 1989 or 1998, excuse me. He took a lot of influence from that. What? Specifically Brendan's walk and hair, which are apparently derived from Spike Siegel.
Yeah. The main character. He had fucked up spike hair and a suit and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Now, Brendan doesn't really wear a suit. It's more just this coat. But yeah, if you look at them side by side, Spike Siegel's character from Cowboy Bebop and Brendan in this film, you do see that. You see the resemblance they were going for. A lot of Ryan's influence came from the novels of Dashiell Hammett, who wrote a lot of hard-boiled detective novels, and of course he also wrote, like you alluded to earlier, Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, with Sam Spade.
Okay, who is Sam Spade? The actor, the character, the director? Who was Sam Spade?
He's the main detective. It's Humphrey Bogart.
Never watched it. I'm sorry. I watch bogey films that I've watched are things like Casablanca. I don't remember Maltese Falcon.
But there are no waters in Casablanca.
Well, I was misinformed. Another interesting fact before we really jump into this film: Ryan asked the cast not to watch film noir films before filming.
Really?
And I think when you watch this, you'll understand why. Because obviously Bogey had a very interesting way of talking. Or if you look at The Godfather, which isn't necessarily a film noir, there's very kind of the clear stereotypical way that we've seen some of the detectives in these films talk, and they're all very centralized around Bogey, right? From or centralized around Humphrey Bogart. And I think Ryan really wanted to avoid that. He wanted these actors to talk like themselves, or to find other influence or inspiration, which
to find their own voice.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's kind of like whenever you go and portray a new superhero or supervillain, like the Joker. Right. Everyone always tries to avoid going Nicholson or going,
Romero.
Yeah, Romero.
Right.
So everyone tries to avoid those, and they try to go above and beyond. But then everyone also tries to go and avoid Mark Hamill. But he's like the GOAT. So.
He is the GOAT. But that's exactly what Rian Johnson was trying to avoid. He didn't want he was really trying to avoid the derivative. He really wanted this to be a unique experience, and he got there, in my opinion. He definitely got there. What was interesting is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He needed to find some place to find his voice, and he looked to musicians for the tone and cadence of his character, and he looked at artists like Tom Waits, Sergei Gainsbourg, and you're gonna love this, the Wu-Tang Clan. And
the RZA, the Jizza, really?
And I gotta be honest, I don't hear it in what he does, but I may not just be that musically inclined. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is light years beyond me in terms of being able to take a musician's work and find an interpretation for that and have it cross the medium into performance. That's one of the things that makes him such an incredible actor himself. So I don't see it, but he was very insistent that is where he got his influence in terms of crafting how the character of Brendan was going to speak throughout the film.
Okay.
Whatever that influence may have been, whether I could see it or not, the end product is phenomenal. It's absolutely incredible.
So now I'm going to watch this and just think ODB. So
Old Dirty Bastard.
Yeah.
So jumping right into the film, we open on a body.
Ooh, a body.
That's it. It's a dead body. That's how we start this film. Brendan is crouched in front of a tunnel, and there's a dead body in front of him.
Like Stand By Me.
Yeah, we're hitting the ground running. We're not fucking around here. And Rian Johnson, the director, he actually said this was incredibly purposeful. He references Miller's Crossing, Glengarry, Glen Ross, and Clockwork Orange as his inspiration for this. He wanted a hit the ground running type start.
Yeah, I love movies like that. So.
Absolutely. He didn't want a lot of build up. He wanted the build up to be in the overall narrative, not getting into the narrative. He wanted to throw his audience immediately into the problem. So, okay, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Dead body. Got it. All right, we're ready. We're ready to go here. So we flash to 2 days previous, and immediately have to go back in and talk about Rian Johnson again. And it's strange, but even though there's a lot of incredible performers here and the language is really neat, this is really a conversation about Rian Johnson. This entire film is talking about Rian Johnson as a filmmaker, because a lot of what we're going to see, a lot of what we're going to talk about was, how did Rian Johnson want this to play out? How do you want to purvey this? So the 2 days later, interestingly enough, there was some contention about whether or not he should have included that, because he literally has on the screen, a title card that says 2 days later. And he wasn't sure if that was the right choice, because he wants to trust his audience. Now, this is a good director. He is not one of those directors that wants to shove things down his audience throats. Why are you smiling, you sick fuck?
I mean, he may be great, but
you're just not
fucking
gonna
Last Jedi. My God,
will you give the man a break?
I'm trying. I'm listening.
Even Tom Hanks gets a Razzie. Fuck, man.
I'm trying.
So he wasn't sure about that decision to have the 2 days later. He felt like he should have trusted his audience. But I'm glad he left it in there, because as I was looking at it, and I think he mentions this as well, we flash back to a point prior to the dead body. And we're given that because we zoom in on some bracelets that the body is wearing, and then those same bracelets are seen putting a note in a locker. Very high school. We're gonna keep getting reminders that this is a high school, because sometimes we need it in this film. We need to be reminded, like, these are children. Like, these are kids.
So you sometimes get transported out of the fact that, okay, this is a neo-noir cop movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you're so focused within that Johnson is putting these little cues back in place to say, oh, by the way, remember this is a high school? So she's putting a note in the locker, and it says 2 days earlier. And I think that was important, because this could have been 3 months earlier. It could have been 6 months earlier. We don't know how close to the dead body of her being dead on the ground this is. So I don't see a problem with the 2 days earlier. I didn't feel that was, an over explanation for me as an audience member. I appreciated it, and I feel like it could have been confusing. Obviously this was prior.
Mm-hmm.
That was obvious, but I wouldn't have known how much prior. So I thought it was a good placement. So he leaves this note, and it's basically telling Brendan to go to this payphone at this certain time. So he goes there, and Emily, the girl that was the body on the ground, she's calling him. She's like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And this is where we start getting some of that cool language. Status quo. Yeah. She's explaining that she's got troubles. M's got troubles. She's got troubles going on here. And she's telling him that some things have arisen that are problematic, and she's talking real fast, and as an audience member, you don't really know what the hell she's saying in this context.
Is it all in that same kind of lingo?
It's all in the same lingo, but she's also saying things that, what we're going to find out later, even the character Brendan doesn't understand what the hell she's saying. She's saying things like the pin and brick and poor Frisco, and there's one other one, and I'll get to it in a minute, but she's saying a bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden she panics, and she's like, oh my God, and she gets off the phone. And this car drives by, and it's a black Mustang, and a cigarette gets flicked out the window. And the cigarette kind of rolls to the ground, and Brendan goes and kind of inspects the cigarette, very film noir-esque, and he sees it's got a blue arrow on it. All right, very purposeful. We need to see this blue arrow, because this is going to come up later.
So before you move forward, what is the relationship between Brendan and Emily?
They are former lovers.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, why would she call him? Yeah,
right. Apparently they dated. What we're going to come to find out later on in the film is Brendan's kind of he's a loner, and he's also kind of obsessive. So in this loner mentality, he kind of put his entire attention into her, and it was so overwhelming for her.
Okay.
And it was isolating for her. So that's why she starts to seek out the company of other social groups in high school, because she's felt so isolated by Brendan's relationship with Brendan.
Okay.
So this obviously, this interaction that he's just had with her worries her. Like I said, Johnson really wanted us to just hit the ground running with this film. So immediately, Brendan starts to investigate. First person he's going to go talk to Brain. As we alluded to earlier, Brain is his only trusted associate, the only guy that he is able to confide in. And he goes to Brain, who tells him, because he wants to talk to Emily directly. He doesn't like this whole passing notes, going to random payphones. For our audience members, a payphone was a phone in the early 2000s and earlier, in which it was kept on a street corner, and you had to offer money to the phone in order to allow it to work. It did not have any capabilities or applications beyond the ability to make a phone call.
You had to offer your firstborn child, I believe it was. I think that was what we offered them in that time.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
But yeah, just in case anybody doesn't know what a payphone is, it kind of a relic of the past. But before cell phones became a staple and something that was very prevalent, there were phones that you could put a quarter in to make a phone call to be able to get a hold of somebody. And we also had to remember all of our numbers. That was a lot of fun too.
Let's just say it was a cell phone on a string. That's how you can think about that.
I'm thinking of like 2 tin cans. So Brian tells him to go talk to Kara, the drama queen, and lets Brendan know what Emily's locker number is, so he can go there and maybe gather some evidence, right? Because again, he's a quote unquote detective, right? So he goes to Kara, and Kara, the drama queen, and the locker both have these invitations to this party. And all it says, it's just this weird, I think it says Halloween in January, and it just says, call for details.
Oh.
And it's really cool the way Brendan goes about getting a hold of the person that he's calling by not saying her name.
Yes, hello, ma'am. This is Tom. I'm a friend from school. Could I speak to...
Oh, sure, Tom. Laura's here. Just a sec.
Oh, that's super
Isn't
cool.
that brilliant?
So, is this prior to Emily's death, or is this after?
This is all prior to Emily's death.
So he's not necessarily right now investigating a death.
No.
He's just investigating why Emily's freaking out.
Yes, exactly. He wants to know what's terrified her so bad. What are her problems, right?
Okay.
You know, she's clearly reached out to him, and now he feels that old responsibility of when he was obsessing with her as her former boyfriend. He's feeling that responsibility because he thinks this is his job. He thinks it's his job to protect her. So yeah, he's gonna just dive himself back into this because Emily wanted his help, and he's getting right back into that obsessive mindset.
So he's got an anti-hero complex.
He's got that anti-hero complex. He calls for details, and the caller on the phone, Laura, they had this really interesting exchange, and she tells him where to meet him because he drops Emily Costage's name, and she's curious. So she says where to meet him. So he shows up, and this party is such classic film noir. He shows up, and it's just a house party, but we're not going to play this like a high school party. And I think this goes back to what you asked earlier. What does it mean that we're going to create a world? Imagine a high school party, okay? What does it look like?
There's a lot of booze. Just think like American Pie.
American Pie, right? People are there's loud music, stuff's getting trashed. No.
Somebody's usually getting felt up in the bathroom.
None of that's going on here. Instead, we have a bunch of kids who are dressed up in costumes because this is Halloween in January. They're all standing around, not with beers, but instead with glasses of whiskey, and it's all in nice glasses. And this is where we get introduced to our femme fatale, Laura. And she's on the piano, and she's playing the piano, playing a soft tune, and reciting a poem. And everyone's just sitting around very like, oh yes, of course, very, very avant-garde. That's not what fucking high school parties look like. But that's what we're gonna do.
So almost as if he's entering a nightclub in the noir realm. Okay, I got that.
Exactly right. Yes, it's set up like a noir nightclub with the femme fatale sexily and sultrily singing, next to the piano. But instead, we're going to make it a high school house party because we have to stay within the context of this setting that we've decided to explore. The other person we get introduced to here after Laura does her thing is this guy named Brad Bramish. Now, I didn't mention him before because he's kind of a tertiary character, but he's a joke. He's this jock, and you can tell there's some kind of relationship potentially between our femme fatale and this guy, Brad Bramish, who is the quintessential football quarterback. And he keeps going on these rants about getting put in the game.
I am Brad Bramish, coach. You gotta let me play. How am I supposed to put in my best game if I'm worried about whether or not I'm gonna be in there?
And it's just...
So he's like a third string.
He's not. He's like the main guy, but I guess, I don't know, apparently he's occasionally not. I don't know. Maybe he's not put in. I have no idea, but that's all he ever talks about. He has no depth whatsoever, which I love. I love the inclusion of this character that has no depth. He is just a shallow human being. And there's this great exchange, like even just the very first exchange we see between him and Brendan, where Brad Bramish, who thinks he's, the big tough guy and the popular guy, says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And Brendan goes, "Leaving." and Bramish is just stuck like, "Oh yeah?" And kind of looking around awkwardly like, well, I don't know where to go from here.
So he has no place to drive the actual plot forward. He's just there.
He's gonna come around a couple times.
Oh, okay.
And he's gonna be important in not necessarily helping Brendan in his discovery of evidence necessary to understand what has happened to Emily, how she got in that position, but he'll be important to ruling some things out.
Okay.
So that's where he's going to come into play. So he has a side conversation with Laura and says he wants to know where Emily is. And she tells him that she's been hanging out with this guy named Dode at a place called Coffee and Pie. Oh my!
Ooh,
I love that name, Coffee and Pie. Oh my!
I would like to visit that place.
The exchange is great too because she just goes coffee and pie, and from our audience perspective, we don't know what that means. And then Brendan repeats it, but then goes coffee and pie. Oh my! And as the audience, we're just looking at that, going, "Are we supposed to know what the fuck this means? What the fuck does that mean?" And then he goes there. It's like, oh, it's a place.
Oh, okay.
So he goes to Coffee and Pie Oh My, and I love this. Like, he's a detective. We're just following where the evidence leads us, right? So he goes to Coffee and Pie Oh My, and that's where we meet Dode, the snitch. So he goes and tries to talk to Dode, and Dode says, "Emily's with me. She doesn't want you around. She doesn't want to talk to you. Fuck off." And Brendan beats the shit out of him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As one does.
As one does. They kind of come to the understanding that, she doesn't want him in her life anymore. The panicked phone call was nothing he needs to worry about, but Brennan's not letting this go. So he says, "You know what? No, I want to hear that from Emily. You tell her to meet me at this place at this time. If she says that she doesn't need me, fine, but I want to hear her say it. I don't want to hear this secondhand from a, 2-bit druggy snitch." He doesn't say that, but I like that. I'm going to add my own noir in here.
I like the fact that the leap that it took to being like, okay, I'm not getting my information. I'm just going to kick the shit out of this kid just because I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my ex-girlfriend. That's a very logical leap there.
I agree. The best part is this guy has his own little henchman. Like, everybody has their henchman, which I love in this film, except for, of course, Brennan. He's got the one trusted associate. This guy has henchmen, and they're kind of off to the side. So Brennan knocks out like one brilliant punch to Dode's face. And then he turns around to the henchman and he says,
"Know what that means, you want hash that? I got all 5 senses and I slept last night. That puts me 6 up on the lot of you."
What? I love it, right? Because he's just, and they back down. They're not going to come at him. They're like, yeah. And then after he beats up Dode and tells Dode his ultimatum, like, "I want to talk to Emily," one of the stoners goes, "Stay out, man." It's just phenomenal way to bring this whole, like, the idea of the 1990s, early 2000s stoner into the fold of this high school noir. It's just great.
Because like you mentioned, he's crafting a world in this own universe. He's crafting this neo-noir world, but it's still existing in a 90s setting. I like it.
I got to say, you've said that twice, and I haven't mentioned it yet, but I love that phrasing that you're using. Neo-noir. Are you pulling that from somewhere, or is that just...
No, so basically what's happening is in the 90s, and I believe it was the 80s as well, they took and they brought in the noir setting basically in a modern setting. So noir in a modern setting is neo-noir.
Interesting. I love it. I love that phrase, neo-noir. I like that. That's really cool. Very cool. So Brennan gets his meeting with Emily. Emily tells him she's fine. They have a bit of a heated moment because he still loves her. He's still obsessed with her. And she's moved on. She doesn't want to be part of his life anymore. And she, tells him, "Leave me alone." And she goes about her way. After this encounter with Emily, Brendan starts to consolidate his evidence, and he's looking at the things he found in Emily's locker, and he finds a small slip of paper. And it's got this, like, A symbol on it.
Like anarchy?
Kinda, yeah. Kind of like anarchy, but instead of pointed at the top of the A, it's rounded. Okay. And underneath that is written midnight. And what we're going to find out from Brain is that the seedy underground of this high school drug trade uses these small pieces of paper as codes to let people know locations and times where certain events or things need to take place. Meetings, exchanges, what have you. And what we come to find out that this is the symbol for the tunnel that Brendan is going to find Emily's body in.
That's more sophisticated than what we use. We used to just say tree when we were looking for marijuana.
We were not sophisticated in our drug lingo. No, we're not. So he, of course, goes there. He finds Emily's body, and then he hears something in the darkness of the tunnel. And he thinks that might be the culprit. So he starts chasing after this blindly in the dark because,
So he finds Emily's body right now.
Yes, we're back to the beginning of the film where he found the body. We're back there now. We're back to present day.
Okay.
So he's chasing into the darkness whoever this person is. And before he can find somebody or catch up to them, whatever it might be, he gets knocked on his ass. He has no idea where it came from. He doesn't know who's in that tunnel with him. But he knows this is a problem. So first thing he does is he moves Emily's body. He doesn't want anyone to know that Emily is dead yet because he thinks that might tip a hand or make somebody panic. He wants to draw out whoever did this.
He's a fucking high school student. Like, what?
And you, much like Ryan Johnson, are going to feel the need to remind us that this is a fucking high school. These are high school. These are actors playing high school students. But yeah, we have to kind of suspend some disbelief because this is a noir film. It's just a weird ass fucking setting.
Okay, all right, I'm on board.
And AJ, that's where I'm going to leave you on part 1.
Ooh.
So we're going to take a break and we're going to go recharge with some toast. And we're going to come back for a part 2. Our music is created by Augusto Denise. Our logo is by Arpon Design. Mixing and editing is by IPTT Studios.
And we want to hear from you and your own slice of toast. Tell us about the films that you think we and others should see. You can reach us on Instagram at IPTT_podcast or email us directly at IPTTpodcast@gmail.com.
And for you lucky viewers, part 2 will be up immediately. So join us there. Thanks for listening.
If you put me in the game, Brad Bramish is gonna do what needs to be done, baby. Okay? But they don't put me in. What needs doing ain't gonna get done, huh? And then don't come crying to me, boo hoo 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 hoo, if you don't put me in the game.